since it's snowing and raining outside today, it's a great day to be in the shop. And I have been wanting to get this front fender mounted up to kind of look at the cowl gap and see how the door gap is in there. So, first thing I got to do is obviously get this fender, the wide body fender, up off the car and get the other one brought back over, and I'll show you how I'm going to transfer the templates there off of that, make some templates to then mount the body, kind of like they did with the fuel door. Okay, so this is the steel fender that came off the car, and really there's going to be some templates I need to make in order to get it to mount properly. Basically get the wide body fender to mount similar to the OEM. So of course across the top here there's going to be 3 bolts itself. You've got the front mounting, which goes to the fascia to the fender, and then the bottom piece there. So in order to get this done, what I'm going to do is basically stand this on end so that the bottom piece or the front fascia piece is going to be on the ground, and I'm going to put a piece of cardboard similar to what I do with the fuel door, put that down, and that way I can trace on the cardboard what the front fender piece should look like. I can then cut the template out, switch it over to the wide body fender like I did with the fuel door, basically just make myself a template that should be able to be used for full front fenders. On the top piece itself, you've got the 3 mounting bolts. So again, I need to make a template to where I can transfer that over to the wide body fender and then cut in the slots here on the top to be able to mount that fender up and give myself some adjustment. And then on the bottom itself, really what I'm going to do is just mount everything else, and then I have the capture nut taken off the body. I'll mount where that hole is, basically drill a hole, put the capture mount nut back on, and then be able to mount that where the fender should be versus where the hole is. I'll let the fender decide where it should be. Alright, so you can see now I've got the fender. So this is the cardboard, the fender's laying down, and you can see where the edge is all the way around. So all you can do is now just take a pen, trace out the basic shape of it, then trace out your holes, and then just cut it out with some scissors, and that'll give you a template to then use to transfer over to your wide body fender. Okay, so there's what the template is going to look like. You can see the outside edge, all the holes itself. Now it's just a matter of cutting with some scissors. Cut it. Okay, so after you cut out your template, you still have the holes left to do. So now I can just use really some scissors or a razor blade or whatever you want to do to kind of drill these out. All you really need to remember is most of these are actually just pass-through holes really for the bracket that goes inside the fascia, the studs that go through the fender, and then you've got a bracket and a nut and washer kind of on the back side. So really they just need to be clearanced just to get the studs through rather than being so precisely perfect. You don't have to worry about that. The only one you want to kind of keep an eye on is this one here, because this is where your clip that goes down in there, and then you've got a nut that goes through that. So just keep in mind there, and then I'm going to take this, cut all these out, and then I'll show you why you don't actually need all of these, but I'll show you why. Alright, so now you can see your cardboard template, how it matches up to the body itself. So you've got studs that will come out all the big holes. You can see that I'm actually missing this kind of alignment pin. It was broke, but it's plastic. There's a second one there that's plastic. you know that this is where your bracket comes in from the body there to help stabilize that, and then that goes down. So what you'll notice is that that doesn't need to be cut out, that doesn't need to be cut out, nor do those bottom two need to be cut out in order to fit your halves together. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the top mounting points on the wide body fender. So I put the OEM fender back on, and I took out the rubber bumpers here, which will give me the, I guess, the shapes I need. So I've got a longer piece of the board, or the heavy thick paper, basically the craft paper. What I'm going to do is here is just lay this underneath the fender itself. All I'm going to do is trace out the shape on this and then cut it out. And the only reason I'm hanging it is just to make it a little easier, because gravity's going to pull it down, and then I can just move the craft paper where I need, and I don't have to really worry about the fender falling off or anything like that. It's just kind of a nice holder using gravity. So with that traced out, now I just need to basically take my paper out, cut it. And what you can also do is then once you have your template out, you can have your holes, line it up to the top of the fender, set it over top, and you can fine tune the shape to make sure it fits here with the holes aligned before you transfer it over to the wide body fender and the fiberglass. Okay, so once you have your wide cardboard piece, you can then cut out the holes, and then the blue painter's tape there is just to be able to mark on in case I need to change the position of it. Pretty easily I can do that, and I don't have to worry about marking up the fiberglass itself. Now you'll notice the cardboard is actually coming off the OEM fender, so it's wider than what's on the flange. So there you want to make sure that the area here on this to the side is correct based on your cardboard to your hole, because that's what you're going to use off of your OEM to measure here against your piece on the wide body. Okay, so now I've got the front edge of the fender there. I've got it taped up similarly so I can write on it, and then I'm going to use this to match up the holes on the piece itself. So I'll tell you, I'm not sure this is going to fit right. And I say that because this hole doesn't really go into anything. So I can see there, these aren't too bad, but I'm going to double check these to make sure they fit. So what I'm going to do is basically this is the edge here. So I'll go from the top edge of this to the stud. I'm just going to measure these. Just use like a small ruler just to kind of give myself confidence that the top edge here and where this hole is what's going to match up the top edge here to this hole. I don't want to start making a lot of holes in it and then find out they're in the wrong place and then have to start doing some fiberglass work in that. So that's the holes there. I'm just going to double check. And what you'll find is when I'm done is I'm actually going to have like a little cross on it. Or an X, or whatever you want to call it, basically saying that's the center drill there, just to have some confidence, and then I'm actually doing it right and not going to screw this up too bad. Alright, so you can kind of see there I've got those marked. So you can see the X's, kind of the X marks the spot. I am confident in all of those, but I tell you, when it gets down to this bottom section, I'm really not. Because I've looked at both of these, and I tell you, with this wide body piece, it's throwing me off, honestly. So what I'm going to do is take this bottom bracket off. So this is the bracket that comes out of the body itself, and I took that off. There's a couple of the washers, basically push nuts, that hold this on to the plastic. So I basically took those off, Took this out the back, and this leaves me holes. So I can now mount up this piece and mount that to the fenders on both sides, and then I can go in and mark these from the back side, mark them this way, and this will tell me where the holes should be, and I can also use this surface here against this to line up so that I can make sure I have this to fit and it'll look good visually from the outside versus having to put the wrong hole in and then have to put another hole. So I'm going to do that, mark that, and then I will then cut these out later with a secondary piece. So I am just using a Dremel, basically a Dremel, electric Dremel, and that's the bit I'm using. So it will cut, once you have your pilot holes, you can see it'll make some nice holes in there. And I'm using just my vacuum, my shop vac, as kind of a work desk. Don't really have a table, don't really feel like I need one, just needed something to prop it up and that. So with that done, I can now fine tune the shape and size of what I need it to be able to fit the bumpers into there and then be able to bolt it up. Alright, so here's a little bit of excitement for you. This is your rubber bumper that goes into the fender, and your hood actually comes down on this side and sits on this. This detail snaps into the fender. Your OEM fender is about 1 millimeter thick when it goes into this channel here. The fiberglass is 3 millimeters thick, so this is not going to fit. So what I have done on the other one, and I'm going to do on this one, is cut 2 millimeters out of this side. Don't take it out of this because this will become too thin. Cut from here up, cut an additional 2 millimeters from this edge up and out on each side so that now that this will fit and this will be my bottom surface here versus here. Alright, so here's the before where it's 1 mil thick on each side. I'm going to make this now 3 mil thick. And doing that, I'm just going to do it with a razor blade so that I can control the depth and the cut speed and make that just a little bit easier to deal with. Alright, so there you can kind of see it's roughly 3 millimeters on each side. Nothing too crazy. You don't have to get too accurate with that, but just do as your best you can with getting it close and really just make sure it fits. It's all about function more than anything else. So now, time to put it in the fender. So there's the bumper. Fits in there, and you notice right there I got a little close with my Dremel, so not a big deal, but yeah, that would be a deal breaker if I was going to have to do body work. That sucks. But it does fit in there, so that rubber bumper is in and good. And there's my second one. So now I just need to test fit the holes here to see if they fit. I thought I would throw on the fender, and you kind of see. So I just put in this fender bolt, the very base, after these are in. This lines up. This should be over this hole, which it does. If I use this as my datum point, I'll show you what. This should be ground up a little bit more to at least fit in the center there. This isn't even close, so this is actually ground up to probably here. And if I expand out, this is where the OEM hole was, here. So, template, I got close, but I got to grind out a little bit more all the way back up to here. And then if I show you this, this is where it should come out here on the edge. So I need to shift this fender forward roughly about 10 millimeters. 10 millimeters. So a little bit over, well, less than a ½ inch. So, and then I'll show you on the door gap there, that door will never open. It's contacting. So that'll have to be fixed once it's shifted. All right, now, at this point, some of you guys might be frustrated thinking, this thing doesn't fit worth it. Well, it's race car parts. I told you it's going to have to be custom fit. So, at this point, I'd love it to fit perfectly, but I know it's not going to. So just take your time fixing it, and remember, like I said, impress yourself with the little details. The big ones they'll fall into line if the little ones are there. So I need to go grind on these holes a little bit more and take this back off and then do another fit trial to see where it's going to be. All right, so you can see I at least got these done. So these holes are now drilled with 3/8 bits. They're normally about a 1/2 inch or 12.5 millimeters. I did them with a 3/8 just to start with. I can always go bigger if I need to. It's very hard to go smaller if you need to. And then this is the, the brace that goes out here. It's just kind of sitting here because there's no hole here to be able to put the clip into, but just to kind of replicate the distance I need. Like I said, the bolts on the top are at least roughly where they need to be. I still need to adjust this back a little bit to get inside this pocket because it's got some tension under here. I used some of this material. Now this is something I have from a sample kit, and you guys are probably not going to have this, so I'll try to find something for you on that to see if you want to do it. And I can tell you that's not too bad. I think what I'm going to have to do is do a lot of body work, obviously, to this, just to get this to sit flat if I really want an OEM finish. And then I've got to be mindful along this edge because it also has to match the hood, and this also has to match the fascia. So there's a lot of complex pieces to go in. So it's just going to take a lot of little time. It's all it's going to be. There's no other way to get around it other than to just take your time and do it the right way. So what I leave you with today is I still am bewilderment. I don't get this. How is this fit good? So anyway, you can see the body lines clearly don't match up. This up here, this here, I can still fit my hand in. I can't put any windshield molding on. So I'm just going to leave it for today and let it stew in my mind of what I can do to fix this. This down here, this mounting piece down here, needs to be pulled down a little bit, but it's not this far off. It's not a 1/2 inch off like this for the body molding and that. And I'm currently at a loss of how to fix this, honestly. It's well beyond my skill, so I'm going to have to do some research and think about it. But these need to come down at least this far, to at least get about 3/8 of an inch or less here gap. This is where it sits, where it'll at least open, but because it's not bolted down, if I bump the car, the damn thing shifts back and then the door hits it. So I've got to do something with this. I mean, I can at least get it open. I can get the door open if I need to, but this is bad. So be patient with it. I'm going to get this fixed, and no matter what it takes, this is going to be a badass ride when it's done. So that's it for this week. I'll leave you guys with that, thinking, how can he fix that? If you guys have ideas on this, I'm all ears at this point. See you next time.